WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Hump Day Wednesday edition of Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. And, of course, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, live here in the Matt Black Kia Studios here on 97.3 ESPN. Weinberg Wednesday. Dave Weinberg will join us coming up at 6:20 tonight. We'll get his perspective on a multitude of topics then. And as always, you can chime in to the show as well throughout. Text board open 609-403-0973 for all of you listening on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. If you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, you can chime in on the stream next door. Kyle, yesterday Kyle had a lot of comments. Hopefully Kyle comes back today and he can throw more of those comments our way, because some of those comments came in a little bit too late in the show for us to get to them. We're only here for an hour each night here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Last night was some of the most ridiculous stuff I've ever seen in a basketball game. No Trae Young. The Hawks had no reason to be winning that game. And what do the Bucks do? They come out there and embarrass themselves. And I understand that by the end of the game, Giannis was injured and he couldn't play and all that stuff. But when Giannis was healthy, the Bucks had 9 turnovers and went 14 for 42 shooting last night. It's just completely unacceptable for you to lose a game like that with 2 all-stars on your team. On the team! And Middleton and Holiday. And earlier today, Jason Fitz was on with Mike Gill on the Sports Bash. And Gill and Fitz were talking about a couple of things. And I thought that what Fitz said today was so pertinent, because what Fitz said today embodies what I am just so aggravated about when we have these discussions about sports. And listen, I preface this by saying I have never begrudged an athlete for making money. I don't really care how much a guy makes on a personal level. If you have a chance to make $1 million playing a game, more power to you. But it's the business operation of sports and the disconnect between how teams view a situation and how the players view a situation that stands out to me. This is Jason Fitz earlier on the Sports Bash.
Max player is no longer about max ability on the floor. It's about max importance to remain relevant. And that's what everybody's afraid of, is how do you manage your relevance? And, to that end, we've got a Goldilocks situation. The NFL gives us way too much power to the team and no power for the player. The NBA is the exact opposite, with the fact that you're right. I mean, teams have to look at it and say, well, if we don't re-sign him, if we don't give him the max, somebody will. That's a problematic logic, because what happens is middle-of-the-road teams give the max to players that don't really deserve what the max was intended for, and all they do is maintain their ability to be middle-of-the-road players.
A lot to digest there. And it's the most relevant topic right now to me, because all the conversation we've had about the Sixers, Tobias Harris, Ben Simmons, we're seeing it right now play out in the Bucks-Hawks series. The Bucks have 2 players with pretty hefty contracts. Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday. They couldn't win the game last night without Giannis. There was no Trae Young on the other side. The 2 superstars are not on the court. You have no reason why the game should have played out that way. But it did. For the same reason that most of these kind of series play out this way. Max players are not the only ones getting max contracts. And it's this way in every sport. Is Francisco Lindor one of the best players? One of the 5 best players in baseball? No. but he's paid like one. Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff, they're paid almost on the same level as Aaron Rodgers. Tom Brady makes less than all those guys. We have to start separating how much money these guys make from who they are as players and athletes. We have to stop acting like, oh, well, you know, it is what it is. No, it isn't what it is. You can make a lot of money and it mean absolutely nothing for your performance on the field, on the court, on the ice. The money you make is just a reflection of how much money someone's willing to pay you. That's all it means. If someone's willing to give you a certain amount of money, it is not always a reflection on who you are, your ability, and your work ethic. The moment you start accepting that reality is the moment that you're going to be happier in life. Because we have put just an ungodly amount of value on things that are not valuable in today's world. It's disgusting at times. Do you really think that these celebrities really need to spend their money on the things they spend their money on? Of course they don't. Listen to some of the music we have today. It's garbage. It's straight garbage. Belongs in the dumpster, needs to be crushed and destroyed. But those people who are involved in making that music, if you want to call it music, make a ton of money. The Paul brothers are making tons of money because of popularity and because of spectacle. But they're not really worth that. You know, it's the idea that we keep attributing financial worth to people's abilities. And it's not one and the same. So when I see people complain about Tobias Harris's contract, when I see people complaining about other players' contracts, my response typically is, one, there's somebody else who is maybe even worse getting paid more. That's my go-to move because context is everything. Context is king. You could come at me with all the numbers you want, but I could find similar numbers because at the end of the day, numbers are that. They're like money. They're neutral. It's what you do with it that matters. Max players like Chris Middleton came up small for his team last night. We have to accept as sports fans and as members of society that someone's financial value is not a direct reflection on their value at their job and in life. Because if it was, there's a lot of people who are millionaires and billionaires who would be dirt broke. And there's a lot of people who are working class, lower middle class, who would be very, very high earners in today's society. There are numerous people doing jobs. There are numerous athletes putting in the work, putting in the hours, who will never get the financial respect that they deserve because they don't fit what the real purpose of these max contracts are. The reason why players make a lot of money is not just because they're good, not just because they're talented. It's because of the fact that they are marketable, that the team can take them and turn them into a return on investment. You pay fill-in-the-blank player a ton of money because you believe that somewhere along the way, you will make all that money back and more if you're a team. The real reason why the Sixers paid Tobias Harris $180+ million was because someone else was going to pay him that money. And they knew that in order for them to stay relevant and to sell tickets and to sell jerseys, they have to have a good team around Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. It's not enough just to have a superstar. Go ask the Pelicans for all those years with Anthony Davis how that worked out. Or the Kings who had Boogie Cousins for all those years, how that worked out. Or for the couple of years that Russell Westbrook was by himself in the band of Misfit Toys down in Oklahoma City when he won an MVP and they couldn't even get out of the first round. We have this totally misconstrued. These teams are giving out contracts because they look at Giannis, for example, and say, if I don't give Chris Middleton this big contract and keep him in Milwaukee, the fans aren't going to believe in the team. Giannis is going to believe in what we're doing. And then if we lose both of those guys, we are up creek without a paddle and we have no way home. And I'm watching Middleton and I'm watching Holiday last night. And I'm like, these guys don't deserve the money they're getting paid. But then I have to remind myself, they're getting paid that money because that is their market value for you to be a competitive team. There's no reason why some of these players should make the money they're making. But that's what the market calls for. And until we're willing to accept that, it's easier to watch sports. It's easier to judge the game. It's also easy to understand why, at the end of the day, you can't trade certain players. And I mentioned somebody who messaged in yesterday. We had a Kyle on the YouTube. You can comment on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We are live here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN, 97.3 ESPN mobile app, 97.3 ESPN FM, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Comment anywhere you want. Kyle is asked numerous times on the stream. At least to me. I'm sure he's talked to Mike Gill as well. But Kyle has asked multiple times, why don't you trade Tobias Harris instead of Ben Simmons? Why do we keep talking about trading Ben Simmons? Because it's about what you can get in return. What teams are willing to acquire. Listen, I don't hate Ben Simmons, and I don't love Tobias Harris. I like Tobias Harris, but I'm not keeping him over Ben Simmons just because I like him. I'm keeping him because I understand that Ben Simmons is on a contract that is going to pay him long-term less money than Tobias. And I understand that I have one player who has a resume that another team will say, I'll take that, I'll work with it, and another player doesn't. Chris Middleton does not deserve a max contract. He deserves a max contract, though, for the same reason Tobias Harris does, because the market calls for it. If someone wants to pay you $100 million, $180 million, you'll probably say yes to. I say probably because I don't like to lump everybody in the same pool. But when I'm watching the Bucks game last night, it's an embarrassment. The Milwaukee Bucks at this point are a dumpster fire. They are the most inconsistent great team I've ever seen. They have a two-time league MVP who, according to reports, is going to be fine. His return is questionable. He'll probably miss at least one game, just like Trae Young did. Giannis will probably miss the next game, if not more. No structural damage to the knee. We're grateful for that. But at the end of the day, we saw in the Nets series already, the Giannis was out there putting up big numbers, and the games that Middleton didn't show up, team lost. The games that Middleton played well, they won. By the way, see with the Sixers. When Tobias Harris played well this year, they had more than 30 wins. When he didn't play well, they couldn't win. When Ben Simmons played poorly, the Sixers lost. It's not rocket science. You play well, you win. You play poorly, you lose. It has nothing to do with your contract. Because at the end of the day, teams are not paying players to win games anymore. They're paying players to sell tickets, to sell advertising, to sell merchandise, to get your butts in the seats, to get your eyeballs on the screen. That's why they pay them money. The other moves that teams make are to win games. But the contracts, that's to make a return on investment. It's business logic. You invest money to make money. You're not paying Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris money just because. You're paying them because somebody else is going to pay them because they want to make money that you're not willing to invest and make in the long term. When Scott O'Neal turns around, when he resigns from the Sixers after 8 years and says, we have made money and we have grown this value of this company, we've grown the value of the product, when he's saying that again and again and again, that's the way they think. And I know it's not cool and fun for the fan because the fan wants to win games. But these are still businesses. And the players want to make money too. The players aren't doing this for free. They may love playing the game, but they're not putting themselves through the regimen of training, the rehab, the dietary restrictions, the lifestyle restrictions. They're not putting in the work just because they love the game. They're putting in the work because they know they're going to get something in return for it. Josh Hennig here on GameNight on 97.3 ESPN FM. Weinberg Wednesday coming up next. Josh Hennig live here in the Matt Black Kia Studios on 97.3 ESPN FM. Matt Black Kia, they will get you approved today. Matt Black Kia on the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township. Visit them online at mattblackkia.com.
The NBA playoffs continue. After dropping 2 straight, the Atlanta Hawks bounce back to tie the series with the Bucks up at 2. Now we return to Milwaukee for a pivotal Game 5.
Our group, the character of it will come through. And we're going home. It's 2-2. We're going back to Milwaukee.
Game 5 of the Bucks and Hawks. Coverage begins tomorrow at 8 Eastern on ESPN Radio.
The NBA playoffs exclusively on 97.3 ESPN FM, South Jersey's sports leader.
Acura believes in facts, like the fact that the Acura TLX is benchmarked for driver enjoyment with a VTEC turbo engine. By sticking to the facts, we have more time for facts. Did you know that the oldest known living land animal is a giant tortoise? He's 188 years old. I bet if he took a ride in the TLX, he wouldn't feel his age. Acura. Less talk, more drive. Visit your local dealer to learn more facts.
For attractive offers on the entire Acura lineup, visit your Delaware Valley Acura dealer today.
Some people are easily moved.
Wasn't that just the saddest movie ever?
Whatever. Others, not so much.
Oh, look at the puppies!
Just dogs, but smaller, so what? But even those who aren't easily moved.
Look, your long-lost brother's been found.
Oh, hi, Mike. Can be moved by us. Yeah, we're that good.
Use Clark's Moving and Storage in Rio Grande for your next local or long-distance move. Visit Clark's Moving and Storage online at clarksmoving.net.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/free.
Fast Track Checkout at either Matt Blatt Kia location. Buy it your way. Complete your purchase online or have us deliver it during the Trade Up to a Kia sales event at Matt Blatt Kia in Egg Harbor Township or Toms River. 0 money down and 0% financing for up to 60 months on every 2021 Kia Soul, Sportage, or Forte. Plus, we need your trade, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Get out of that old car you hate with 0 down payment and 0% APR financing available for up to 60 months. Try Fast Track Checkout. Purchase completely online and have us deliver right to your home or office. Only at Matt Blatt Kia, where you can't make a mistake with our 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
Offers with approved Tier 1 or 2 credit through Kia Motors Finance. Not all will qualify. 0% based on 1667 per 1,000 borrowed. Negative equity financed into new loan. Go to mattblattkianj.com for complete details. Expires 7/6/2021. Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township. And now on Route 37 in Toms River.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, live at the Matt Blatt Kia Studios. With your guys' thoughts and comments in just a bit. Of course, 609-403-0973 is the text. We're also comment on the stream on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Joining us as he does each and every Wednesday right now on the video stream to talk more about a multitude of different things. Today is Dave Weinberg, Weinberg Wednesday. Dave, how you doing today?
Doing well, Josh. Just getting back from food shopping. So I'm on the gorgeous Garden State Parkway at the moment, but all's good.
Well, it always could be worse. You could be somewhere else that's not so beautiful. So
that's true. I did get to the beach today, so I'm feeling pretty good now.
Dave, I never doubt you getting to the beach. Okay, I think we have confirmed that your ability to find time for the beach or golf is very well done by you.
Yeah, you can add stand-up paddleboarding in there too. Yeah, I'm pretty much a beach bum.
Nothing wrong with that. So, I got to start here, though, Dave. You covered the Eagles for 25 plus years, and Merrill Reese in an interview, and I'm not even fully sure why Merrill decided to say this today, or why he decided to phrase it this way. But according to Merrill Reese, the Eagles are close to a deal, and they're close to a deal with Buffalo getting Zach Ertz, but he doesn't have any special inside information. But he wants everyone to know that the deal is close. Your reaction to that?
I'll believe it when I see it. I mean, Merrill's been known to, he's a fan first and foremost. So maybe that's something that he thinks should happen. But without any details or whatever, that's kind of, I think it's more of like a pipe dream at this point. I mean, it'd be nice for the Eagles to finally find a taker for Zach. But I don't place a whole lot of stock in that.
Yeah, it just seems weird that the way he phrased it. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, I'm being told this is happening, but I have no inside information. It's like, well, which is it? Do you have inside information and you've heard things, or do you not have inside information? So, I just always find it interesting when people who are not traditional journalists or media speak about things that you wouldn't expect them to speak about. And like you said, he is Merrill Reese. He's not an actual reporter. So,
right. I mean, I think he might be going into his 50th year, maybe, or 40th as the Eagles play-by-play guy. So, he certainly has a lot of experience and a lot of history with the team. But you're right. He's not known necessarily as a breaking news kind of guy. So, yeah, I wouldn't place a whole lot of stock in it, like I said.
At this point in time, I mean, would you be surprised if Zach Ertz is traded for a training camp, or do you feel like the way things have gone that he might have to come to training camp and they might have to just kind of like iron out their issues?
I honestly hope that they do. I hope that they do iron out the issues, because I think Zach's too good a player to get rid of without to get rid of at all. I just think they're making a big mistake by getting rid of him. I mean, Dallas Goedert has a lot of potential, obviously, but I'm going to write off Zach Ertz's season this past in 2020 just to chalk it up to, just one more thing of a lot of bad things that went wrong with that team. So, but I still think he's got the potential to remain an elite tight end for a few years now. So I'm hoping they can. And he loves Philadelphia, as does his wife. I mean, they're pretty much ingrained in the community, not just in football, but outside of football. So I'm really hoping that they're going to be able to work things out. The Eagles really don't have any power here. The rest of the NFL knows that they want to trade him, so they're not going to give up, second round pick, third round pick, or whatever. They pretty much have the Eagles over a barrel here. So it's just a matter of whether the Eagles want to take a lesser value or if they want to just swallow their pride and keep Zach for the long term, which I hope they do.
Yeah, and you mentioned last year, it's hard to hold anything against anybody from last year. It's funny how we'll hold it against certain players, but not against other players, right? It's like, hey, Zach, hey, Jalen Hurts, you guys stunk last year, but we're not going to hold it against, like, I don't know, Darius Slay or Fletcher Cox or I don't know, any of the 20 offensive linemen who had to play because of injuries. At some point, it's like, the old saying, "What's good for the goose is good for the gander," right? You got to blame everybody or nobody. So I'm with you. I have trouble blaming and being too hard against certain people when the environment around them was not made for them to be successful.
Yeah, you're 100% right there, Josh. You can't give Fletcher Cox a pass or Darius Slay a pass or Lane Johnson or whoever, and then come down hard on Jalen Hurts, who's basically was thrown in there cold without any camp in it, without any preseason, without any preparation, really. You really couldn't expect him to perform at a Pro Bowl level or what have you. And Zach, I don't know what went wrong with him. I think the contract stuff really hung over his head, unfortunately. But you can't allow that You can't allow that to happen when you're a professional athlete. But unfortunately, human nature being what it is, it does creep into your psyche sometimes and affects your confidence. So, yeah, I don't think you can throw them under the bus and then allow Fletcher Cox and whatever to have a pass.
Absolutely. Dave Weinberg joining us for a Weinberg Wednesday here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. At Dave Weinberg 19 on Twitter. Extra point columns over at 97.3 ESPN.com. By the way, speaking of Eagles, is there anything more Jason Kelce than that he's slinging drinks at the Ocean Drive in Seattle, yucking it up with Eagle fans? I mean, is there nothing more Jason Kelce like than that?
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. He's a man of the people, I guess you could say.
He really is.
Yeah. I mean, he thinks nothing of going down to Seattle City or Wildwood or what have you. I mean, Brent Selleck had a little restaurant in North Wildwood at one point, and Jason was always there, hanging out with Brent and Eagles fans. And as you saw from his Super Bowl speech, he's very much part of the community, part of the fan base. He understands them. They understand him, and it's a great relationship. And I'm really glad to see him down here and enjoying himself a little bit.
The other thing is, and Dave, you tell me, how we think about this. I think there's also a part of Jason that knows that the end is near, that he's not going to play that many more years. So he's trying to, embrace all of this as much as he can, almost like he's taking his rocking chair tour almost before he decides to hang it up kind of thing. Yeah,
that could be. I mean, he's always done this. This is nothing new. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, I think he sees himself as the quote golf term. He's on the back nine of his career here, and he knows that it might be 1, 2, 3 more years at most. So he's going to sit back and enjoy the ride and bask in the attention a little bit. And maybe he's trying to set himself up for something, life after the NFL, whether it's a radio host like Ike Reese or TV or what have you, which I think he would be great at. He's a very analytical player, very good at dissecting things, but he's also has a sense of humor. So I think it would be a perfect fit, whether it's in the TV booth or the radio booth.
Well, I'm sure if he really wanted to cut his teeth on the mic, I'm sure, any of us over here at 97.3 ESPN would love to have Jason Kelce hang out with us. Dave, I wanted to flip over to boxing here because I was watching the Lomachenko fight over the weekend, and a typical Loma performance. takes him about a round or two to really warm up and figure things out, and then he goes out there and dominates. But I ask you, okay, so people want Loma versus Lopez too. Is that going to end any differently though? Like, I don't really know. Do we really see anything from Lomachenko that was different on Saturday night, or is he just still the same fighter he's always been?
No, he's. I don't want to say one-dimensional, but yeah, you know what you're getting with him. Yeah, very tactical, very takes his time. And he's been fighting for a long time. He doesn't have a lot of pro fights, but he was an amateur forever, and a leopard can't change his spot, so to speak. I mean, especially when it comes to him, I think what you see is what you get, and I don't see it ending any differently.
So if he's basically going to just be who he is till forever,
Which
is
is
there
very good,
really?
but yeah.
You're right. He is very good, but I mean, is this whole rematch with Lopez a waste of his and Lopez's time? And then I ask, who really could challenge Lopez at this point?
I'm sorry, repeat it, Josh. I couldn't hear you.
I was asking, if him and Lopez are basically could potentially be the same outcome, then is there a better challenge for Lopez out there?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, you there's not a whole lot of depth there. So yeah, maybe it does make sense to have them have a rematch. Yeah, I don't know that there's another fight out there that would draw the attention that would. I mean, like we said, it'll probably end the same way, but still, I think people would pay to see it. And yeah, there's really not a whole lot of worthy challengers, I don't think, for either guy, really. So yeah, it might make sense for them to do it again.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. And I was talking about this a little bit at the beginning of the show, Dave, and that is people misconstrue what we see on the court, on the field, in the ring with the money side of sports, the business side of sports. And, a lot of times these matches happen because of politics and money, not as much because it might not be the best fight. And I think that's the thing that the fans separate themselves from, because let's be realistic. Oscar De La Hoya is not fighting Vitor Belfort for the love of the game. He's fighting it for the the money that can be made off of it. So I mean, these guys, they're doing these things for money. And I look at Lopez, I look at Lomachenko, and it's like, yeah, these are great fighters, but at some point they're also trying to make sure that they make life-changing money and that they have that one chance to do it.
Right. I mean, everybody's, it's boxing especially, everybody's tied to a promoter or a network. You saw, I guess it was Gervonta Davis that moved up 2 weight classes.
Yeah.
And won the title. Well, they've already made it clear that, there's plenty of great fights out there for him, but Floyd Mayweather says he's not fighting anybody outside of their stable, so-called stable, whatever, PBC or whatever, and same thing. They're not going to, there's plenty of fights out there to be made, but there's so many promoters, networks, organizations, sanctioning bodies, and everybody's beholden to something. So, it's one thing to say so-and-so against so-and-so would be a terrific fight, but there's so many hurdles you have to climb over to get to that point. It's a miracle that you see any good fights, to be quite frank with you.
Yeah, and hopefully, Dave, now that we see that there's apparently a lawsuit between Paradigm and Pacquiao, maybe that will stop the Pacquiao-Spence fight from ever happening, because at the end of the day, nobody really wants to see that either.
Yeah, the whole thing is ridiculous. If it seems to, I hate to sound old, but there was a time when the best wanted to fight the best, and they were willing to do whatever it took to do that. Unfortunately, those times are gone. I mean, money being what it is, the power, like I said, sanctioning bodies, that kind of stuff. It's just that it's a shame that boxing has turned into that kind of thing, but unfortunately, that's the way it is.
Yeah, and you know what? At the end of the day, I think people just need to accept, whether we like it or not, that there's a lot of money involved in this stuff. And you know what? These are people, these are businesses,
Sure.
These are people who are going to make their money. And if someone's willing to pay somebody X number of dollars to do something that maybe not be the best option, but might be the most money-making option, you just kind of got to shrug your shoulders and begrudgingly accept it. Doesn't mean I have to like it, but you're aware of what it is.
Right, and generally boxing has a relatively short shelf life. I mean, Manny Pacquiao being the exception, but those guys aren't fighting for 10, 12, 15 years. like a baseball player or an NBA player. You have a couple years to make as much as you can, and that's the way. And I can't fault them for that. I mean, that's the way you have to do it because, like I said, you're not going to be around for a decade. So make as much as you can. Fight the fights that make the most sense. You really can't. I mean, I'd love to see, like I said, the best fight the best, but sometimes that's not always the sensible thing to do, unfortunately.
Dave Weinberg joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN at Dave Weinberg 19 on Twitter. Extra point columns over at 97.3 ESPN.com. Now, Dave, I know as somebody who you just called yourself a beach bum earlier, I'm sure you have a very eclectic or a very fun 4th of July weekend. So what does 4th of July weekend hold for Dave Weinberg and Kate May?
Well, now that the pandemic seems to be not gone, but going, I'll probably go back to what we usually do, which is fireworks on North Cape May does a great job on the bay, and then the following day, Cape May has theirs, off the coast. So it's time for gather with the family, sit on the beach, watch the people go by, and watch some fireworks, and then maybe hopefully have a cookout in the backyard. Smoke some ribs and make some burgers, and have a real good time. How about you?
Well, my weekend, I'm still figuring that out because 4th of July falls on a Sunday, which is kind of throws us at the station all out of whack. So we're technically off on Monday. So we had to Gil and I are shuffling things around. But I will probably get to see people on the day of 4th of July. Outside of that, it's probably just the family at that point. But
I got you.
No, but
hopefully you'll have fun.
I'm sure I will. I try to find fun in everything, even if it's monotonous. But what I was gonna ask you though, Dave, is that the good news is it's supposed to rain before the weekend. So this time, unlike Memorial Day weekend, at least the weather is going to mostly cooperate, where it's supposed to only be rain on Thursday and Friday, but then from Saturday through Monday, we're all good. So at least we got that going for us no matter what.
Yeah, and it's sorely needed for for South Jersey. I mean, Atlantic City all the way down to Cape May. They had a really tough year last year, and it's great to see the crowds again. They're coming back in full force.
Oh, they're coming, all right. They're coming, Dave. I ran into them today. Yeah.
Yeah, you always do. That's true.
Took me 20 minutes to get from the Marmora ShopRite to the Parkway North entrance today. So.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
They're here, Dave. They're coming.
Oh yeah, they definitely are. Yep. I had trouble finding a spot on the beach today. It was so crowded with the umbrellas and chairs and everybody. But I'm one of those guys. It doesn't bother me. I like the crowds. Compare that to the desolation of winter. I'll take the crowds every time, even though it's a little inconvenient at times.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't mind the crowds. My only problem has ever been the people who are irresponsible as drivers. Once I see you in public, I'll be fine with you. But the people who don't know how to drive, I'm like, dude, if you don't know how to drive, find somebody else to drive for you. Like,
yeah, oh yeah,
come on.
Yep. That and not being able to find a parking space. Those are my two pet peeves. Yeah.
Well, the best is when you're driving around a parking lot. You're like, oh, there's a parking spot. Then you get to the spot and you see the person. They have like a third of their car in the spot next to that. So the spot that you thought was going to be free is not really free unless you're driving a smart car and you can squeeze it in at that point.
There you go. Yeah, and the golf carts too. That's another thing that drives me nuts sometimes.
Yeah, the golf carts and the mopeds.
Yep, absolutely.
He's Dave Weinberg. Follow him on Twitter at Dave Weinberg 19. The podcast is Tequila and Touchdowns with Dave Weinberg. Extra point columns at 97.3 ESPN.com. And he joins us each and every week here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Dave, enjoy the holiday weekend, and we'll catch up with you next week.
You too, Josh. Thanks for having me as always. Talk to you next week.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. We'll get back to your guys' thoughts and comments next. 609-403-0973 is the text board to get on the conversation. We're also live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, where you can watch the show. Just follow 97.3 ESPN. Hit that alert button. You always get alerted when we go live with the Sports Bash with Mike Gill, Game Night with Josh Hennig, the Locker Room with Billy Schweim on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, where you can watch us live in the Matt Black Kia studios. Matt Black Kia, they will get you approved today. Matt Black Kia, Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township. Visit them online at mattblackkia.com.
The NBA playoffs continue.
Playoff P gives the Clippers their largest lead in the game.
Facing elimination, the Clippers respond with a critical Game 5 win. Now we return to Los Angeles. Can the Clippers survive once again to force a Game 7? Or are the Suns heading to the NBA Finals?
They hit us. They were too comfortable, and we got to be better.
Coverage begins tonight at 8:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio.
The NBA playoffs, exclusively on 97.3 ESPN FM.
Hey, it's Mike Gill from the Sports Bash. If you're an advertising salesperson, how would you like to sell my show, the Sports Bash, here at 97.3 ESPN and Town Square Media? We're hiring new advertising salespeople to sell the Sports Bash, the #1 sports talk show in all of South Jersey at the #1 media company in South Jersey. Selling the Sports Bash is the job that will take you as far as you want to go. An excellent compensation package awaits you, as does a creative and fun working environment. So join the team on the Sports Bash and Town Square Media. It's truly the most advanced media company in all of South Jersey. Start or build upon your sales career by becoming a member of our team here at 97.3 ESPN and Town Square Media. If you're interested, apply at townsquaremedia.com. Click on careers. Town Square Media is an equal opportunity employer.
Some models excludes Corvette with GM financing, excludes prior sales. See dealer for details.
As you know, most car dealers in our area are still having trouble getting cars and charging a lot more for them.
But Bennett Chevy isn't like most dealers. We kept what you love, our famous GM supplier employee prices.
It's incredible. You pay what our supplier employees pay and not 1 penny more. And Bennett also gives you all the rebates. That's up to 25% off MSRP. 25% off.
Plus, we've still got available 0% financing to save you even more.
Shopping for pre-owned?
Well, Bennett's still paying a minimum $7,000 for trades.
So if any old junker is worth at least $7,000 towards any pre-owned in stock, think of how much your good trade is worth. And Bennett's now an authorized lease return center for all brands. And with our non-commissioned sales staff paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend,
there's no pressure, no hassles.
The best prices, low rates, the most for trades. Nobody beats Bennett. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy. Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN and then the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free. Thanks First Bank of Seattle City. And we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We can watch the shows. We're live in Matt Black Kia Studios here on 97.3 ESPN. Don't forget the Sports Bash with Mike Gill. Will be back tomorrow from 2 to 6. You know, Mike Gill asked that question today that pretty much blew up the text board. Name 5 movies that you've watched at least 10 times. And, you know, obviously, you know, it's in jest, but everybody likes to poke fun at the movies that, you know, I watch or I've watched multiple times. I know some of it's in jest. I know some of it's because some people just, they're just egotistical freaks. But here's the thing. You know what I noticed? I went back to the list of movies that I've watched more than 10 times, and that is most of them are part of movie franchises. So it's like Jurassic Park movies, Fast and the Furious movies, the Dark Knight trilogy, all the Marvel movies. You know, I tend to rewatch a lot of movies that either have one of two things. It's either part of a movie franchise or is Denzel Washington in it. So at least I'm consistent for nothing else. I just think that sometimes, you know, when it comes to a movie, I've always said that, you know, there's a level of escapism that's good with the movie. And if you can't enjoy it, if you can't have fun with it, movies are not meant to be taken too seriously. You know, don't preach at me. You know, don't shove anything down at me. You know, I've rewatched all the Star Wars movies, for example. They're part of a franchise. Any successful movie franchise I've watched, I've rewatched the movie multiple times. Like, for example, the 9th Fast and Furious movie came out. That's not an exceptional film. They're not exceptional movies. But you know what? The Fast and Furious 9 movie was the largest national and international box office gross of any movie since the fall of 2019, specifically October. So by pre-pandemic standards, the Fast and Furious movie is not just the first blockbuster of the summer, it's the first movie since 2019 that has had a large amount of success financially. They're not going to win an Oscar. They're never going to be critically acclaimed, but they're entertaining and they're a little off the wall and they're interesting and they're fun. So what did I do? I ended up rewatching all the Fast and Furious movies leading up to last Saturday when I went and watched it. That's what I do. When I do with movies like, the Black Widow Marvel movies come out, I'll probably rewatch a couple of the Marvel movies again before I go watch the Black Widow movie that comes out next weekend. Not this weekend, but next weekend. Although it's going to be a little bit complicated for me because Black Widow is coming out the same weekend as Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier 3 fight. So my Saturday night's already booked up. So I can't watch Black Widow Saturday. Too much of a conflict there. So it's going to have to be either, you know, right before Saturday or after Saturday. I'll get around to watching it. But I do watch a good amount of movies. I'm kind of known for that. So it'll be interesting to see some of Mike Gill's reactions to some of these tomorrow. Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Mike Gill 2 to 6. His reaction to some of those questions he asked. Movies you've watched more than 10 times. And by the way, the only movies I've watched more than 10 times that are not in those two categories I mentioned earlier are Oscar, which is a hilarious mob comedy. If you haven't seen Oscar, then you're missing out. And What About Bob, which is, again, if you haven't seen it, you're missing out. It's a hilarious. What About Bob is hilarious because it's about a patient of a psychiatrist who follows his psychiatrist to his vacation spot. And basically they end up reversing roles. The psychiatrist goes nuts and the patient ends up becoming a favorite of the family. So, and it's with Richard Dreyfuss and Bill Murray. It's a good time. So again, you know, to me, movies are about having a good time. Like sports, you know, I don't take sports hyper serious, wins and losses. I take my analysis of sports seriously, but I don't take the sport itself hyper serious. Like I can walk away. Now, part of it is because I'm I'm not someone out there who's sports betting all the time. I don't live and die with every play, but I take my analysis and my opinions seriously. But I don't take the outcomes of the game seriously. I can be disgusted with the way the Sixers played in Game 7 and still sleep that night. Because I know that I'm going to just vent and go nuts about it the next day. So, anyway, good stuff out there today. Shout out to Jason over on Facebook. His compliments on how I opened the show. Appreciate it, Jason. Telling that I brought the fire today. Yeah, Jason, I feel like there's this real issue when it comes to people, and they conflate and they misinterpret how things work in the world. The business of sports is a powerful thing. Okay? The business aspect is the reason why people like me have a job. Okay? The business side of sports is the reason why there are all these people who have jobs at sporting arenas, who work for team organizations, that work in media companies and marketing and advertising. There's so many people out there who have jobs because of the business of sports. And so I know that it's hard for people to accept sometimes, but this thing called money has a crazy impact on the world we live in. It is what it is. So appreciate it, though, dude. Appreciate you chiming in. Over on the text board at 609-403-0973. Dan from EHT has a question that has nothing to do with anything we talked about today, but I'll address it anyway because I try to be nice. Dan from EHT says, how many games will Wentz and the Colts win, Josh? I say 9. I say 9 and 8 because remember they have a 17-game schedule this year. I mean, I haven't looked at the Colts schedule that deeply. I don't do the win-loss game until I know the actual finalized rosters, but I think 9 to 10 wins is fair for the Colts, which means that you will get that first-round pick from the Colts. Remember, the condition of the Wentz trade is he has to play basically 3/4 of the team's games next year, and then the pick conveys to the Eagles. And considering Wentz has played the majority of he started every game that he could have in the last 2 years, and considering that the offensive line for the Colts is better than what the Eagles were dealing with last year with all the injuries, I would assume Wentz and the Colts win somewhere between 8 and 10 games. I think 9 and 8 is a fair number. I think the Colts' biggest problem isn't Wentz. The Colts' biggest problem is they're in the same division as the Tennessee Titans. And let's be realistic. The Titans are the best team in that division. I think the Titans acquiring Julio Jones is huge for them. And I think that, the Colts still have questions on the defensive end of the ball. Also on top of that, the Colts play the toughest division in the NFL this year. Their intra-conference matchup is with the NFC West. So they're playing the Seahawks. They're playing the Rams. They're playing the 49ers. They're playing the Cardinals. That in and of itself could be a 2-2 split for them. And I don't expect them to beat the Titans both times. Let's say that that's 1-1 right there. So now 6 of your 17 games, you're already 500. So to say they go 9 and 8 is not extreme at all. Especially considering they open the season, the regular season, both against those teams. Now they have those games at home, but the Seahawks are going to play motivated. The Rams are going to be motivated. What if the Colts start the season 0-2 or 1-1, and then they got the Tennessee Titans at week 3? So, yeah, I think it's a fair number, 9 and 8. I don't think that's an extreme number. I'm under the impression, barring anything crazy happening, that that the Eagles are going to get that first round pick. That first round pick will convey from the Wentz trade, barring anything crazy happening. That's just how I look at it. All right, wrapping up the show here. Josh Hennig on GameNight on 97.3 ESPN tonight on 97.3 ESPN. We have the Clippers and the Suns, game 6. I said the other day I wouldn't be surprised if the Clippers won. I just expect them to win that way. They really neutralized DeAndre Ayton. I wouldn't be surprised though if the Suns win tonight. I would honestly lean to the Suns tonight. I don't think the Clippers can pull off that kind of win 2 straight nights where they completely neutralize DeAndre Ayton, slow down Chris Paul. I just can't see them doing that 2 consecutive games. No Kawhi playing tonight. I'm going to assume the Clippers season ends tonight. And you'll have the Suns facing, I don't know, in the final. I mean, the way the game with the Bucks and Hawks went last night, who knows who would win that series. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night. I'll catch you tomorrow.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff. Learn more, live better.
Want to improve your brain function? Do a cardio workout. One study found that after one treadmill session, exercisers learn new words 20% faster. Why? Because getting your heart pumping delivers more oxygen to your brain, and that stimulates new growth in the areas that control multitasking, memory, and planning. Another way exercise can transform your life, you'll be happier at work. According to the University of Bristol, on days when workers participated in an on-site fitness session, they reported thinking more clearly, getting more done, and having better relationships with their coworkers. So there you go. In addition to being healthier, exercise can make us happier and even smarter. I'm Robin Stoloff for Health Update.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff, empowering you to live a healthier life.